but I did see like some big tables with like full scenery, like miniature setup
Sure.
for like D&D with all their tile sets and whatever. And I was like, wow, this is gorgeous. I'm like, this is also unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
it is.
would you want to set that up?
That actually segues a little ways into our one more thing for the day, which is actually about holographic tabletop games. And this was actually something that you brought to my attention a little while ago, and sounds like you might have seen it a little more up close when you were at PAX.
Nope.
Well, okay, fine. That's right. You didn't really stop it.
I didn't see any holographic stuff.
Oh,
there.
you didn't see that? It was just like the digital ones where you can lay things.
No, the gaming tables I saw were all for like tabletop.
Oh, they're actual tabletop. Well,
They're actually tables without screens.
Okay. This one, however, is actually kind of like for tabletop, but it's like a holographic digital piece that is what they refer to as the AR tabletop gaming platform Tilt 5 that announced a partnership with Asmodee Digital, which you probably know as the Asmodee Group from France, that they were going to develop a series of holographic tabletop games using augmented reality, not exactly, the VR, but AR. And the general look and feel of it is, imagine you actually have a game table, but then all of the elements of your game are kind of brought to life three-dimensionally through a holographic display while you're using, like, the goggles that...
Yeah, it's that Pizak thing from Star Wars, I think, right?
Sure, yeah.
I don't remember if that's the name of it. It's the game that has the chessboard-looking thing with the holographic figures on it looking thing.
Yeah, that's not Pizak, but
I don't fucking know.
Yeah, but it is the one that Chewie insists on winning.
Yes, let the Wookiee win.
Yeah, you always let the Wookiee win at that, but it's similar to that, but like for realsies.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And I guess the question we really had about it is, like, right now this is going to be relatively expensive technology.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be cheap.
I mean, you've seen the holographic keyboards they have, right?
Oh, yeah. You put it on the goggles and it's just...
No.
No.
Holographic keyboards are the ones where they've got the little box that you put on your desk and it projects a keyboard onto your desk.
It projects the keyboard and you can
And then
touch
you can
it.
actually you can use it because of how your fingers interact with light.
Yeah, because your fingers interact with the light. Yeah, those are expensive. You can't buy
They're
them
neat.
cheaply.
I don't think they're necessarily better.
Yeah, I would doubt its effectiveness. But these, however, are going to be expensive for a little while because new technology usually is. But if we assume the way other technologies go, they will start to become more commonplace and therefore get a lot cheaper. The question I have is, do you think that this is the kind of direction that a lot of tabletop users, especially once they can start gaming closer to each other when we actually do convene more often, is this going to be a good option?
It depends on the type of game. For instance, a traditional board game, I don't think it would be a better option necessarily. But maybe for someone who wants to make a strategy game, like a war game, for instance, imagine that you have a holographic tabletop that you can have all the assets you need plugged into.
Sure.
So my army, I can just project on the tabletop and move it a lot easier than, say, picking up a miniature and moving each time. It'd be a different tactile experience, but perhaps it could be a really interesting way to make it long-term, more affordable. Depends on if you have to buy the rights for the fucking armies, I guess, at that point.
Right.
But like, instead of having to have individual miniatures,
Sure. Yeah.
Or maybe do it like the Amiibo.
Okay.
What was the game? Sky Knights? Something like that?
Skylanders.
Thanks, that one. So where you scan the thingy and maybe you have a holographic tabletop where you actually have like sensors. So you put the one thing on the table and it'll spread out, the rest of the army or buildings around it. That could be neat.
Yeah, I can see that.
But like traditional tabletop, I don't necessarily think it would be better or more commonplace. And I think for RPGs it could be cool, but then you have a lot of how you get a specific dungeon's tile set or landscape into it yourself, unless it comes pre-programmed.
Yeah, see, this is the thing is that if you're doing your home games and you're making up the world and you're doing the prep and you want to do that, it is going to be more work because you're probably going to have a design set almost like the CAD system, or I guess Roll20 in the more modern parlance.
Yeah, I don't see that as something more accessible because, sure, there are bunches of people who make their own maps.
Yeah.
For games.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one thing. Making your own map and having it rendered digitally?
Yeah.
Totally different.
What they would have to do is they would have to integrate, if we're talking like Dungeons and Dragons, we'll go to the campaign that we're doing for Icespire Peak. And when we went to like Nomengard and you get into the map, if like Wizards was able to provide a chip or something for like the digital pack, like the VR pack, that you could use in those for the campaign, and all of those locations are pre-rendered in, and it had like the light sources of where your people could see as they're going in. So like if our characters are like, you know, holographic representations, and we start off at the beginning of Nomengard, and you're trying to kind of like explain what the world is and what this cave system is, and we can only see whatever we can see in that world, and as we're able to move the characters in and show where we want to go, the map starts to reveal itself, and the fog of war comes in around where we aren't seeing.
I mean, that's not AR at that point. That's VR.
Yeah. Well.
That's like that's like if Wizards were to go, all right, we made just Nomengard in VR.
Mm-hmm.
And be like, that itself would be a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
Let alone all of the other locations.
Yeah.
Even in that one specific, like, campaign.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't need it to be like in first person where like I'm in my character and I'm going around. I was thinking more like Warcraft. You know how like your character will be in Warcraft and you'll illuminate new parts of the map and there'll be stuff behind it. Like imagine if your character was like the Arthas or whoever else you had in that map, and the map itself was rendered as like a holographic display for the table. So you could move your characters around that map at almost like they were playing pieces. And the map itself would reveal itself as your characters were going around that map.
Yeah, I think this type of thing would be better relegated to strategy games.
Yeah.
Than role-playing games.
Well, and that, but I'm thinking that because of that, the tactical aspect of when you get into combats, it would be incredibly useful.
Sure. I just don't think it would be like, I don't think it'd be super accessible for that.
No?
No, like I don't think that would help. I think it would be more cluttered then.
Oh yeah.
It's like, all right, well now I have to pull up my character sheet and then tell it I want to do this thing. And then it has to do all the things.
Oh, I see what you're saying. When we actually have to... Well, you know what you'd have to do at that point is similar to the holographic keyboard. You'd have to have a thing where I could like tap my little guy on the head and his stat sheet comes up. And,
yeah, and that is infinitely more of a problem.
Yeah.
Than doing like a strategy war game.
Oh yeah.
Where there's so many more variables for an RPG than that. So
it's true.
I know. I just think it'd be better for like that type of thing than say an RPG, because trying to specifically do like one terrain or one zone as opposed to like a battlefield they're totally different things.
I would think that it would be handy just for spacing purposes. Like
maybe, but
determining how far a thing is.
I mean, we can do that in tabletop just with graph paper, though.
You can. I'm just thinking that from an aspect of like trying to be there, it might be more, visually appealing to actually kind of get a framework of what the landscape looks like. That kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe, but then you've got, you know, some people who would rather just imagine it, and then some people who look at that as a like, all right, this table is now fact. And it's
Oh
like,
yeah. And just there happens to be an artifact, and it's just a stop sign in the corner. You go, okay, that's pulling me out of my fantasy.
Yeah, it's one of those weird. I think it's one of those weird areas. Some people would get really into it, but I don't think most people would.
Right. I guess I was mostly just thinking if you could have like a holographic version of like those miniature pieces that they pull out for some campaigns, with like the individual figures for the bad guys, and you have the castle layout or the taverns that they're going in.
Sure. I actually saw some of those at PAX as a throwback. I didn't even think of that, but I did see like some big tables with like full scenery, like miniature setup.
Sure.
For like D&D with all their tile sets and whatever. And I was like, wow, this is gorgeous. I'm like, this is also unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, would you want to set that up?
No, I wouldn't mind so much if there were tiles that were representative. Like if there were boards so that we had like a representation of like us on a board, but I don't really necessarily need the three-dimensional
Yeah, these were like
it's a lot.
Full on 3D models and really great looking, but it's like I don't have room to store this. I do not have. I'm only going to use this so many times.
Right.
Because like in that instance, it's like what do you buy like individual like tile sets? Do you like?
Sure.
I know for like Warhammer and stuff, it's like when you start building scenery, it's like all right, I've got a box of scenery, and then it's like I just rearrange it or the scenery on the table each time, or you just have like a board that is just that board and you do not change anything on it ever, and it is always just the same battlefield. It's one or the other.
Right.
You don't usually have interchangeable and sculpted like that.
Sure.
Yeah. And it's usually just set pieces. It looks really nice, but it's like, again, you have to store it, and you have to have enough times you want to use it. So like a cityscape, for instance, in D&D, if you had that in a real model, you'd have to be like, all right, here's a city, and it's like, all right, well, I'm just going to use these buildings every time then because I bought them and I want to get my money's worth out of them, or I built them. For the holographic one, at least then, potentially you'd get more variety in use of it, but I don't know. It's a weird area.
Yeah,
I think the tech would have to come a really long way to make it like usable and ideal.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if this is the kind of thing that gets lapped, because I would think that the next evolution of it might actually be VR, where you can actually step into your character in a world that's been, built in like 3 dimensions, and then you can just like have your stats for your character like an RPG, but built as and that doesn't seem like it's all that far off, and probably the thing a lot of players would be interested in doing to feel like they're more in the action. So I don't know. And also, that kind of thing is something that you could still do remotely with a crew and all have your, sort of like an MMO, but for your own game and your own tabletop experience. So it's probably, basically, it's not probably something that we're picking up.
No.
It's going to probably not be, but you know what? Hey, if anybody listening to this is thinking that they might want to pick it up, I'd be very interested to know. And if you want to leave a comment down below and tell me what you think the usefulness of this is, and if it's something that you would consider picking up. And also, the big question that I have for everybody out there is, what price would you feel you would be willing to pay for
$2.
$2. $2. Yeah, I guess
I'll get you 10 chicken McNuggets.
You'll get me 10 chicken McNuggets, which is $2.
I think they're like 4, but close enough.
Close enough. Okay, 5 chicken McNuggets.
Single chicken McNugget dropped on the floor twice.
Wouldn't it be amazing if our new form of currency was just all how many chicken McNuggets does it?
Well, then McDonald's would be rich.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But no, you just how much is the house? 550 chicken McNuggets.
Doable.
550,000 chicken.
It's the barter system.
It's the barter system all over.
Just get someone that's hungry enough and
exactly.
offer to buy their house with chicken McNuggets.
It seems like a really good idea to have your entire barter system be on something that's perishable.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, are they perishable? It's McDonald's food.
That's true. Like the Taco Bell tacos, you can just leave them. Yeah, they'll be worth the same amount forever. Yeah,
exactly.
That's good. That's what you need for the holographic tables, is just like a virtual Taco Bell, and you have to bring people up to the taco. Yeah.
Great. I love it.
You use real tacos for your pieces, and they'll never go back.